These are trying times. The world has changed over the last few months and it's still changing all the time. It's no wonder we're all feeling a little frazzled. We've watched the impacts of COVID-19 across the world and we've adjusted our lives to meet the guidelines developed to prevent the spread of the virus. Then, just as we start to settle into a new normal, the guidelines and regulations change. It's unsettling, and for parents who are managing their own and their children's reactions, it's unavoidably stressful. But we can take steps to navigate this situation as calmly and positively as possible. Today, parenting and family psychology expert and founder of the Triple P Positive Parenting Program, Professor Matt Sanders, shares some ideas about taking care of yourself in these stressful times so you can manage your emotions and be calm and consistent for your family.
It's just starting to really affect me. I'm starting to feel anxious all the time. I feel anxious when I've got to go to the grocery store and not touching things and people not keeping their distance.
I've worked my whole life and now I've been laid off. I find it really degrading and I'm feeling bad for my family. To go on unemployment benefit is something I thought I would never do.
In my business, I work with a lot of other business clients and many of them are very worried at the moment. They really don't know how things will pan out. I don't remember seeing so many people so stressed, even in the GFC, because no one knows what the outcome will be.
I think my mum is really lonely and I'm really worried she's getting anxious and depressed.
The social isolation is really getting to me. Little things that usually wouldn't bother me are getting to me more than they usually would.
Coping with emotional distress of a pandemic is certainly not easy. However, if we can take care of ourselves as a parent, we're going to be much better able to support our children and others around them. The more we're aware of how we're actually coping, both physically and emotionally, the more quickly we can take actions to manage stress and unpleasant emotions like anxiety and sadness and anger. But the first step is to become aware of how we're actually feeling and how these emotions are affecting us as a parent. So tune into your emotions and your body to better understand how your body is reacting to stress. Where are you feeling tension? What parts of the body are being affected? Identify how your emotions are affecting your everyday parenting. So when you feel upset or angry or anxious, how do you convey those feelings to your children and others around you? What happens to your tone of voice? What happens to what you say? How is this being conveyed in your everyday interactions?
It's all a bit scary, really. I work in the hospital and going to and from where COVID patients currently are. I never thought we'd be living through something like this. Everything's really unsettled.
I find myself constantly checking the news all the time to see what's changed. It's got me really on edge.
I'm finding it harder and harder to get to sleep at night. I'm in front of the computer all day and I'm just so exhausted, but I'm just finding it really hard to switch off at night.
Dealing with stress and anxiety is a challenge for all of us. We need to develop practical ways of doing this, however. So some of the ideas that are important here include things like planning your day, making sure that the goals you're setting yourself at the beginning of the day are actually achievable. And also, if you think about your daily activities, build in some pleasurable activities to make sure that there's actually time to do things that you enjoy doing. Be prepared to limit how often you're actually checking the news, because if you're searching through screens or through the radio for all these signals that are coming out about the threat that's there, we're more likely to be on edge for longer periods of time. But if we're just checking a couple of times a day, that's sufficient. When you're feeling stressed or anxious, you may be drawing a line between a situation and your emotion, but in between, there is the way in which you are making sense of the situation. What are you actually saying to yourself inside your head about the situation? So it's really helpful to identify what you're actually telling yourself. If you catch negative or unhelpful thoughts, such as, I can't cope with this, I'm a terrible parent, this is just too much, why can other parents deal with this and I can't? You need to think about how to replace these negative thoughts with more positive and realistic thoughts, such as, well, everyone is finding it hard right now. I'm doing as well as the next person. Keep your worries in perspective and focus on what positive steps you can take yourself. You could think of a difficult event in the past that you were able to overcome. Everyone has experienced a history that has involved being able to rise to the occasion and deal with things. Those are the memories that you need to be reactivating right now because they indicate to you that you can cope. Be prepared to practice some of the really useful stress coping skills that have been developed. For example, deep, slow breathing is really, really helpful. You just take some slow, deep breaths. Breathe in slowly through your nose, deep into your belly. It may help to imagine you're filling a balloon in your stomach. Pause for a moment and then breathe out slowly through your mouth. Let all the air out. As you breathe out, allow your body to fully relax. You can even imagine your shoulders and arms and legs going loose and limp like a rag doll. Just do a regular count in and out. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. You could say relax or let go with each breath out. Another useful technique is muscle relaxation. You can try to relax by loosening any tense muscles. The aim is to first tighten and then relax each part of your body while keeping the rest of your body relaxed. When you tense a muscle, feel the build-up of tension, hold it for 10 seconds and then release the tension slowly so you can notice how the muscle feels. Relax for 20 seconds and enjoy the pleasant feeling. Following this routine for each part of your body is the way to do it. If an area feels particularly tight, you can tense and relax it 2 or 3 times. Another really helpful exercise is what we call mindfulness. Mindfulness exercises help us to take notice of what we're paying attention to. It might be taking a few minutes to focus on our breath or the sensations we have, what we can see and feel. The aim is to notice when your mind wanders onto something else, which happens for everyone, and then bring your mind back to what you were focusing on. If we're aware of what we're focusing on and how our mind drifts, we can start to exercise more control over what we think and what we do rather than reacting on autopilot. There are lots of apps out there that are available online, so try practicing for a few minutes each day. The more we practice, the better our body gets at relaxing on cue. The other important thing right now is just to keep as healthy as you're able to. Make sure that you're getting sufficient sleep. It's just simply not worth it to be working into the early hours of the morning just to then have to get up early in the morning when you're feeling exhausted and have not had enough sleep to have the energy to face the day. Also, just regular exercise. Even though many of us are restricted in terms of our movement, we can still do exercise within the home. And of course, eating regular meals in a way that avoids binge eating or overeating as a way of dealing with difficult emotions. So we need to keep healthy. And finally, look for some positives in a difficult situation. Like thinking of this enforced time at home as a good opportunity for family connectedness and to help your children maintain a sense of optimism. There is a future. There is something that we can all do to make this current situation more tolerable and to enable us to learn from it.
I'm hearing about increasing rates of domestic violence with everyone staying at home and everyone under heaps of stress. That's a real worry.
I know I'm a bit more irritable at the moment, so that means we're arguing more. There have been some raised voices at our place, us and the kids. It's all about trying to keep the balance.
It's it's important to develop ways of managing conflict and anger. Be mindful that it's harmful to children to witness unresolved adult conflict. Disagreements are normal, and it's good for children to see parents debate and have discussions, providing they're calm and that they see an outcome. It's fine to disagree, but children need to see that where conflict is occurring, there is a resolution. There is a way of the family working through it. But it's not good for kids to see a lot of angry exchanges that simply escalate and are never resolved. Aim to increase positive, everyday communication. The way to build up a relationship is to speak calmly and respectfully to the other person, and to do things with them that show that you really care. Tuning into your triggers, like lack of sleep or high levels of stress that leave you feeling frustrated or impatient or annoyed or angry. These triggers increase the risk of conflict. Now, in these situations, if we tune in to our thoughts that are making us angry and learning to talk back to unhelpful thinking, this can really reduce irritability and anger and enable you to stay calm. For example, if you're thinking, these kids are making all this noise on purpose when I'm on the phone, they know it upsets me, they're doing it deliberately just to annoy me. Well, if you're thinking those sort of thoughts, you're really likely to get angry and end up shouting at the kids. But if you think about it in a different way, well, maybe the kids are bored, maybe they're hungry, maybe I need to give them a snack before taking my next phone call. What you're doing is encouraging a calmer way of approaching a situation that in the past you've found yourself losing your cool in. To get through the current situation as calmly and as constructively as possible, try to make an extra effort to be assertive about your needs rather than aggressive in how you're asking someone to do something for you or to change. So speaking in a civil, clear but calm way rather than in a demanding, escalative way is important at this time. Because in a lot of ways, if we can avoid this, what we call the escalation trap, when you turn up the temperature, you turn up the volume, you get angry and annoyed, you get into a shouty way of dealing with things. If you can avoid that escalation of anger, you're much more likely to be able to resolve conflict. And finally, the idea of holding regular family problem-solving discussions at times when things are a little calmer, so everyone can have a say and you can talk through an issue. Sometimes you need to plan it. You need to make a time, and you've got then the best chance of trying to brainstorm a solution where people's individual views can be heard, you can reach a compromise, you can agree on an action to take place. And then, of course, holding discussions at times when you're feeling rested increases the chances of it working. But not when you've been drinking or using substances. These are the times that really make problem solving almost impossible. Children learn so much from us by watching how we deal with stress, how we speak to them and how we act when we're under pressure. If you can see that how you're coping and how your emotions are affecting your parenting and your children, it's a great motivator to look after ourselves so that we're better able to look after our family. This time is difficult for everyone, and it's not your fault. So don't be too self-critical or to put yourself down. We can be very judgmental about our own actions as parents, and it's quite unhelpful. Try to be as compassionate and supportive of yourself as you would to a friend. If you're finding things really tough, it's really important to get support. Talk to your family doctor. Make an appointment to see a mental health specialist. There are lots of telehealth and online options that are also available right now.
That's all in this episode of Parenting in a Pandemic. Here are some tips for the week. Tip number 1, it's important not to offload worries or stress onto your children. Get some support for yourself so that you can role model a calm and we can cope with this attitude. Try to maintain an emotional even keel. Tip number 2, be aware of stress signals in your body and practice ways to manage stress and anxiety. Tip number 3, work on ways of avoiding conflict and anger by finding triggers and unhelpful thoughts and switching to my helpful ways of thinking and speaking that keep you and the whole family calmer. Tip number 4, the aim is take care of yourself and support each other's parenting efforts, strengthen teamwork, and avoid heated arguments that result in parents becoming impatient, irritated, or angry with loved ones. Thanks for listening to Parenting in a Pandemic. If you're enjoying this podcast, make sure you like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to leave a review, it'll help others to find this series. You can find free COVID-19 Parenting in a Pandemic resources in the episode show notes to help you on this journey.